Well, you should not overly worry about the offense. I repeat, you should not overly worry about the offense. Let's go. I'll tell you why.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Corey Burton. Today, I'm in my alternate set. As you can see, I'm recording from school. We got a baseball game tonight, so I'll be doing that here. Excited to bring you from my second location. So welcome to my second humble abode, my second studio here in Nashville. Today, I'm going to go further in depth on why you really shouldn't worry about the offense struggling right now. Because first off, the quarterback situation is not settled. Neither is the offensive line. They haven't found their best five, and that's very, very important. So you're seeing bright spots along the way, which is also can give you a little bit of a ray of hope. Most notably, Cole Spence and Quincy Skinner. To be exact, those two guys are really kind of standing out in spring practice. So we'll talk about their impact as well. Also in baseball, Braden Holcomb is taking full advantage of his opportunity. So buckle up for this one. This is going to be fun. But thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Speaking of you everydayers, thank you so much for making all of this happen. You guys are really, really killing it and really getting the word out on the show. I want to be top of the market here, man, and I think you guys are going to help me get there. So with your help, I'm already crushing, man. This is a lot of fun. So thank you to the everydayers. Anyway, so everybody's okay. So one of the things about this offense, one of the things about spring practice, one of the things you always hear about is, oh, the defense is ahead of the offense, or vice versa. The offense is ahead of the defense, and whichever side is ahead is usually good. Like, oh yeah, the defense is great. In Vandy's case, oh, the defense is great. They're making plays. This guy and this guy and that guy, they're all, they're doing their thing, right? So when you talk about that kind of stuff, there's usually a trade-off. Like, well, the defense is great. Yeah, I guess that means the offense is struggling a little bit. So that's, when you strip away that layer of it, that's part of what spring practice is all about. One side usually benefits at the cost of the other side. And that's just kind of how it works when you go against each other all spring practice. That doesn't necessarily mean that the offense sucks or the defense sucks, right? Because that's the first inclination of that is the defense being terrible. So I wouldn't worry too much about the offense struggling. And here's why. And here's the first point why. I think the quarterback situation is not settled. It's looking more and more like quarterback one is not in the building yet, and that's Diego Pavia. I think one of the things that people are going to point to is, oh, these quarterbacks aren't ready. And that's fine. If they're not ready, they're not ready. I talked about that a little bit yesterday, but if they're not ready, they're not ready. So it's looking more and more like it's going to be Diego Pavia, and he's not here yet. These other guys, they're struggling a little bit. They are inconsistent. They're not sharp. They're making some mistakes and things like that you can't have to be successful in a football season. But in the grand scheme of things, you're dealing with guys that are competing for what's likely a backup spot. Like Nate Johnson comes in, a lot of promise, a lot of talent, but extremely raw as a passer. And right now, it's looking like, from what I read about the practice reports, and I'm hoping to be able to get to a practice, but I don't think my schedule and Vandy, I don't think my schedule is going to align to be able to make it out there. And I don't think Vandy lets you out there long enough for me to really get much from what they're doing. I would love some super secret, full access to their next scrimmage at Ensworth, but I might reach out that on a side note, so stay tuned on that. But yeah, I mean, it just seems as like Nate Johnson is, he does everything that I thought he does well. Throws well on the run, is a force in the run game, but he's still not polished. He's still not comfortable in the pocket, which to be a good quarterback, you do need to have some pocket presence. I don't think you need to be a pure pocket passer, but I think you need to have some presence in the pocket. He just hasn't developed that yet, and that's okay. He's still got some years left of eligibility, and I think the others just haven't taken those steps forward. It's almost like the one step forward, three steps back mentality of like, okay, they do one good thing and then two mistakes, one good thing, two mistakes. So they're just not really making much progress. But they are learning the system. They are getting comfortable with the reads. They are getting comfortable with terminology. So that kind of plays a part into it. Maybe there's some of the lack of understanding there that they're not getting. And that's probably making them look worse than they actually are, because talent-wise, all of these guys could start easily. Like Nate Johnson could start. We could win with Nate Johnson if we had to. We could win with Blaze Berlowitz if we had to. We could win with Drew Dickey if we had to. I don't know about the two freshmen, but I imagine that they're talented enough that we could, do something with them as well. But, I think what they're struggling with is just finding that footing and finding that true essence of being quarterback one that you have to have if you're going to be successful in the SEC. And they just don't have it yet. And keyword is yet. And that's why, the quarterback situation is not settled by any stretch. I think they'll still have fall camp to go. And I still think they'll be competing all the way up through fall camp. And, guys will fall off the competition along the way. But, Pavia, he's sitting in a really good position right now as far as being the leader in the clubhouse. As far as understanding the offense, having the intangibles, the toughness, and just all the attributes off the field that you need. Because he's talent-wise, he's probably right in the middle of the pack here with all these quarterbacks. Like I don't think he does anything exceptionally well, exceptionally better physically than these other guys. But I think all the other things outweigh that and allow him to operate in a manner that he needs to operate to be successful. Especially a manner that needs to be operated under, like to go into a hostile road environment, say Auburn, and get a win. So, and he's going to have to do that now with the bullseye on his back, because Diego Pavia can't hide from anybody anymore after that performance with New Mexico State when they beat Auburn. So that's going to be something that he has to kind of deal with himself. It's one thing to be quarterback at New Mexico State. And, nobody really, like, you play New Mexico State, you're not really up for that game. Like, it's whatever. You lose, yeah, so what? You take your lumps and you go. But, like, as a quarterback in that situation, like, he had nothing to lose. So he was playing extremely loose, extremely fiery. We'll see, like, one of the things he has to adjust to now is being the guy with the target on his back. Can he do that? Right? So we don't know how he's going to do in that situation, because now he goes from the hunted, or he's going to be hunted more. People are going to be paying attention to him now because of what he did, and now where he's at, and now the buzz that surrounds him. So he's going to have a lot of pressure there to deal with. How does he handle it? Does he falter? What does he do? What is his makeup? I mean, everything that we've seen so far would tell me that he can handle it, but I don't know. Like, you don't know until you really kind of get in that situation. So it's just one of those things where you have to figure that out along the way, and you have to put them in situations to where it's high pressure. Everybody's coming after you. You're not going to have good protection against better players and things like that. So he's going to have to deal with all that and be involved in the run game. Okay, so these things are going to get sorted. These things are going to get situated. So the quarterbacks just aren't comfortable yet. And that kind of trickles down a little bit, right? And so you're going to naturally see the team struggling, right? Because you can't complete passes. You're not unsure of your reads. You're unsure of your protection calls. Sometimes you misread an RPO and defense gets you. And then occasionally, this is an SEC defense. They're good. They're going to get you. occasionally. So, those are factors that I think people see, and it's like, oh gosh, like red flag, red flag, red flag. And is it concerning? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's a little concerning when anytime you struggle, because you're always in the back of your mind wondering, okay, well, this thing's going to fall apart before it even starts. But, I think if you sit back and go, okay, they've been 7 practices in a brand new system, first scrimmage in a brand new system. Defenses are typically a little bit easier to learn than offenses. No offense to defenses, but defense is more reactionary than it is attacking, which is just different style. It's not right or wrong. It's just a different way. So once they figure out the quarterback situation, I think they're going to be just fine. And once they figure out the quarterback situation, they're going to be just fine in a lot of areas. They're going to be able to, I think Tim Beck's going to be able to really kind of hone in on, okay, here's QB1, here's what he does well, and then really just kind of hone in on that package. Like, okay, this is what he does well, we're going to branch off of that. Okay, or if, let's say hypothetically Diego Pavi's quarterback 1. Well, he goes down. Well, now you got Blaise Berlowitz happens to be number 2. Well, Blaise Berlowitz can do a lot of what Pavia can do, so it's not much different. Like, they're going to evaluate all those things as they go. And as they get it situated, like who can do what, who can allow us to be as close to our core philosophy on offense that we can be, and then they're just gonna build it out from there. Who gives us the best chance to win? Who's the biggest threats? How can we utilize everybody's strength? So this thing's far from over, man. And there's another scrimmage this weekend that we'll probably talk about, and you'll probably likely see a big jump. So. Yeah, the offensive line too, man. We're going to talk about that, how they're gelling. We're going to talk about that next. Stay tuned. All right, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. All on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Come on. What are you waiting for? Yeah. Go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, welcome back. Segment number 2. It's the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Listen, let me ask you something. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting, like Screaming A. Smith, Skip Bayless, all the shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, also, I think so. We're back on the discussion of why you shouldn't freak out. And, I think quarterback play and quarterback struggles and quarterbacks learning a new system always happens to be the number one point of people's, I guess, anxiety, so to speak. Like, people are like, oh, God, this team's going to suck now. Quarterbacks are struggling. Oh, boy, this is going to be a rough ride. All right. But, again, this is how you develop. You make mistakes in practice. You throw the picks in practice. You get sacked, you bust protections, and then you learn from them. You say, okay, how do we not bust this protection next time? How do we avoid that next time? How do we, and then you talk your way through it through film work, reps on the field, and just seeing these bullets, right? And so it's one of those things where you kind of have to just be in that situation. So one of those things that I think helps is having a good offensive line. And that's another point where people are just like, they're always worried about the offensive line, and rightfully so. The offensive line, in my mind, is the most important position on the field, because without a good offensive line, you're nothing. And offensive lines don't necessarily have to be uber talented. They don't necessarily have to be, 5 NFL draft picks, right? They just have to be 5 guys that are on the same page and allow your play caller to actually call the game like it should be called. And so when you have that, that's when you start to have success. And when you start to have success, then you start to get a little confidence. Then you get a little confidence and you play way above your level, right? And then, of course, the strength and conditioning that comes with it is especially important for those guys. They need nutrition, good weight, and then heavy strength training, things like that, and be able to have muscle endurance where they're not getting significantly weaker throughout the game as they get fatigued, right? They don't need to do all the running training that the skill guys need to. They're kind of a different level of conditioning there, but it's also important to, when you come in with a new offensive line coach, which is what's happened, that's always a tough transition. So right off the bat, you're going to struggle because offensive line gelling with their coach and their coach understanding the personnel he has is a struggle, especially 7 practices in. I mean, this guy's been here since mid-February, and they just started a couple of weeks ago with spring practice. So, he hasn't really had a chance to evaluate everybody that he has in a football sense. He's been able to see them in the weight room. He's been able to meet with them. He knows where they're at from the neck up, and that's a really good thing. But he doesn't really know how these guys will perform under pressure. And so in doing so, I think as a brand new offensive line coach in a brand new scheme with guys that don't have a ton of experience, save maybe 3 or 4 of them, that don't have a ton of experience at the college level, you have to come in and just try to figure out who the heck are my best 5, starting with your center, your tackles, and then your guards. I think that's you got to find your center. He's the quarterback of the offensive line. Then you got to find your tackles, the guys that are big, long, strong, that can pass protect against these fast SEC edge guys. And then you have to find your guards who are your run guys and your pullers and your guys that make it happen on the ground. So when you're trying to figure all that out, you've got a transfer, you've got a few preferred walk-ons, and you've got some guys on the roster that really haven't, for one reason or another, really haven't factored in. You've got your returning starters, and then you got guys that have been injured and for various reasons, things like that. I think you have a starter that's injured. You have some guys that aren't able to go right now, and that's going to be tough in the development of your best 5 because you've got to figure out, and that's part of the problem. That's probably the main reason why they're struggling right now. You read, defensive line with the offensive line. Well, maybe you have guys out of position. Maybe you have guys playing tackle that have no business playing tackle. Maybe you have, maybe your center is terrible. Maybe you're not calling protections right. Maybe you're just not understanding things. That's all part of the development of the offensive line is coaching each other, and executing, right? I mean, it's the core foundation of how you would evaluate those guys. And when you have breakdowns and you have guys that are out of position, that's a physical loss right there. And you're not going to, of course you're going to struggle, right? You have a 6'2", guard trying to play tackle. I'm no expert. It's probably not happening, but that's just an example. If you have guys that are out of position, you have a guy that's better shuffling to his right than his left, well, maybe he should be on the right side. Maybe you have to put him on the left to discover that. I don't know. But there's combinations that you try to try to find the best 5, because not only is it the 5 most talented guys, right? It's not just that, because if you did that, there'd be guys that, there'd be some guys that are kind of out of position. It's got to be the best 5 unit where they're just meshed together like that. And it's almost like they think is one, right? If you can get that is your best 5. Okay. And some of the physical stuff you have to suspend because, you can't have everything perfectly, at least in year 1. Maybe you can start to recruit that, but you have guys that you kind of have to make fit in different places. But if they can fit here and they can fit with the other 4 guys, they're going to be in that spot. and they deserve to be in that spot, and they will play well in that spot because if they have confidence, they'll play well. If they know what they're doing, they can anticipate, and it makes things a lot easier. And then they get a little bit of swag. And when you get an offensive line that has a little bit of swag in there, like when the jerseys go up and the bellies are hanging out, that's when you know. When you look at your offensive lineman, you see 5 bellies hanging out of their shirt, you know you're in trouble because those guys have supreme confidence at that point. It's called lineman pride. And when you can get those guys all going as one and communicating, not yelling at each other, but just like communicating and making sure they're getting things right and making sure things are covered and firing off, and all the physical stuff will take care of itself because Coach Kleinakis is a really good technician. The form will be there. The fits will be there. The combos, all the fundamental stuff that you need will be there. It will come, right? They're working on that. So some of the fundamental breakdowns, I definitely wouldn't worry about because they're going to work those out. But you're going to have some other things that happen with this offensive line that lets you know that they're making progress. Because can they pick up different pressures? Can they communicate and pick up those pressures? Can they make the right calls in the run game to make the proper combos and block the proper people? Can they do that? I don't know. So you have to figure out what you have in that group to figure out if you can do that. So in order to do that, you have to try things and you have to struggle. So that's the name of the game. It is what it is. It's going to come out in a report as the offensive line's terrible, and it's just going to look a lot worse than it actually is, and that's okay. That's to be expected. I'm not surprised in the slightest that happens. So you have to understand that when you can't panic about the offensive line struggling right now because they have a new coach, new scheme, and a whole lot of guys that haven't played together in this scheme. So they don't know the calls. They don't know each other. And they're going against guys. A lot of these guys are going against guys better than they've ever seen playing scout teams. So it's a combination of a bunch of different things. So just keep that in mind when you're panicking about how bad this offensive line is. So we'll get this will also unfold. I can't wait for scrimmage number 2 to be to go down and for you to see kind of how this all happens and how they progress, because that's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, Braden Holcomb, that's a name you should really get excited about baseball wise. He's taking full advantage of his opportunity. I'll tell you why. All right, welcome back. We got a few minutes left here in the show. We're wrapping this thing up. We talked a lot of spring football. Why we kind of really got deep into why you shouldn't break down and panic about the offense not looking great. There's some before we get into Braden Holcomb, there are some bright spots to this offense. Like Cole Spence, he's this big 6'7" tight end, was hurt most of the year. Has been absolutely incredible. He is an absolute menace when it comes to being a target. I think he's going to thrive within this system, a system that really takes advantage of the tight end. When you look at receiving threats, I think Quincy Skinner is a name that I've seen pop up a lot in the receiving game. I think when you look at what he can bring to the table, toughness, grit, catching, making contested catches, things like that. I mean, I think he's going to be a force in this offense that not a lot of people expected him to be this level of good. And I think he's going to really do his quarterbacks a lot of favors. So look forward to that name, Quincy Skinner. We'll get more on him and more on Cole Spence as we go. But I wanted to address the quarterback situation, the offensive line situation, because I think people think a certain thing about these things and they don't realize all the variables that go into it. But when you're looking for that silver lining, when you're looking for things to say, okay, this offense may not be as bad as the sky is definitely not falling. This offense is not going to be as bad as everybody's thinking it's going to be. So when you look at some of the bright spots, like having a really good tight end, productive tight end, will benefit your offense really, really well. Will help your offensive line, will help your quarterback. Having a receiver that will go get the ball wherever it is also something good. And Cedric Alexander, I think, will help the run game out as well. I think when they figure out what he can do well as a running back and what this offensive line can do blocking wise up front, as a unit, they'll kind of figure out how to best utilize him. So this running back situation is also going to kind of factor in. So don't freak out about that. But anyway, with a few minutes left, I think one thing that when you watch Vandy baseball, okay, and I've said this from day one, Braden Holcomb was one of the prospects that I was absolutely I would say enamored with, but I was absolutely intrigued by, because I thought, okay, this guy, if he can crack the lineup, I think he will end up giving them the power that they need in this lineup. And when you look at it, that much has come true. Okay. And he is really settled in, and he struggled a little bit probably in practice. And it was, Tim Corbin's not going to just throw a guy out there to throw a guy out there because, some guy on a podcast says this guy can hit well for power. I mean, he's got to get comfortable with college level pitching, SEC level pitching. There's a lot of things that have to happen with Braden Holcomb, and there's other guys on the roster that have been performing well up until that point. But you get a couple injuries, a couple of defensive struggles away, and you get swept at South Carolina, and now you're forced to kind of make a decision. Okay, well, we got to start looking at all of our options. And so Braden Holcomb's name came up, and they worked him into the lineup. And so needless to say, he's had a monster series. I mean, he homered the first time he swung the bat in a game against, I think it was Indiana State. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by this, but he homered twice in Saturday's series clincher. He was 3 for 5, drove in 5 runs altogether. He was, I think he had a really good outing in the second game as well. And it was just one of those things where he was really good. I mean, he was making his 5th start. He had a double in the second game. Drove in some runs. I mean, he's really kind of seeing the ball. He's seeing the ball really well, and I love that he's taking advantage of this, because when you need pinch hitting opportunities, when you need guys down the road, you have different lineup combinations, you have different matchup things that you have, and different combinations of like getting some fast guys in, some power guys in, and trying to find your best 9. Just like the offensive line, if you got guys that do different things well, and you have a guy that can really hit the ball for power, and his thing is just being more consistent at the plate, pitch selection, not getting over antsy, and I think sometimes a good pitcher will beat a guy like that, because pitching is very cerebral, and they can get this guy out by throwing stuff away from him and getting him to chase, because he's an over antsy freshman that wants to drive the ball 550 feet every time he swings. So, getting himself out of that a little bit, because I think sometimes you get too comfortable in those scenarios. Getting himself out of those scenarios and getting himself more in the mind of a hitter and trying to get himself more into that chess match that you have with the pitcher is something that I think has benefited him. He's made 5 starts now. He's driven in a small village worth of runs. He's homered quite a few times now. He's starting to become one of those bats. He's starting to become one of those guys that you really can't ignore, and you really can't keep him out of the lineup. I mean, you've got some guys, Austin Fort, RJ Austin, thinking Jay Davis, RJ Austin, somebody as well. But I think with him and his experience in the corner infield spot, I think sometimes, I think all of those guys playing first base, I think Braden Holcomb gives you the most upside because of his hitting ability, and I don't think he's enough of a defensive liability to keep him out of the lineup. I think sometimes you get some errors over there at first, and it gets to, if you get errors at first base, it's not a great thing, and not a warm and fuzzy feeling for a head coach if he's got a first baseman that's struggling. And I think a lot of that was due to putting some guys out of position so you could get some guys in the lineup in the outfield, which, I mean, those outfielders have earned it. I mean, Calvin Hewitt, Jacob Humphrey, RJ Austin, Troy LaNeve. I mean, all those guys have earned playing time out there in the outfield. And there's only 3 spots out there. So, because your DH is Camden Kozel, which he's back and he's being productive again. So Braden Holcomb provides a spark in the lineup, a power spark that I think will ignite this team. And once you get the bats rolling, pitching becomes really easy. So it's a pitcher's best friend when you have guys like that knocking the ball around the yard and out of the park. So hats off, tip of the cap to Braden Holcomb. They look to take on MTSU tonight. So make sure you check that out. That'll be a fun one to kind of see how that plays out and to see what they do as they continue to evolve as a baseball program. So, and then they've got a really, really tough series that we'll preview against Texas A&M at College Station, which I don't know if you know about College Station, but like those fans are pretty ruthless, and it's a really tough environment. So they've got their work cut out for them for sure. So glad they won at LSU because that's also not an easy environment. So they got a little bit of pre-training for that. So anyway, that's for later on in the week. So we'll talk more about that and more spring football as well, and maybe some basketball transfer portal news will pop too while we're getting after it this week. But that's going to do it for us today. We hope you have a great Tuesday. We hope you enjoyed the solar eclipse yesterday. We hope you got to see it. It was cloudy here in Nashville, so you saw glimpses of it, but I don't think I ever saw it totally cover the sun. But there was enough around it that we could get a good view of it. So with that being said, we're going to get out. I'm going to get out of here. So it's we'll see you back here tomorrow. It's a hump day, and we'll catch you. Until then, like us and subscribe at Coach Burt 36 on X, at Locked On Vandy on social media. Find us on YouTube. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. Spread the word, man. It's a beautiful thing. So we'll see you back here tomorrow. But until then, anchor down.